It is very important to recognize that when you go into another jurisdiction, the ethics rules are going to be different. They may be very different. Indeed, they may be so different that you are put in a circumstance where if you obey one jurisdiction's ethics rules, you will be violating another's. A classic example, the District of Columbia is the only jurisdiction in the country that permits multidisciplinary practice. You can be in blended law firms. You can be in firms in which non-lawyers and lawyers work and play together, like in an unnatural circumstance, like dogs and cats sort of frolicking. I mean, it's very strange. But it's unethical in every other jurisdiction in the country, but in D.C. it isn't. If you're a Virginia lawyer and you're in one of those firms in D.C., you're violating the rules of Virginia, and you're in concert with the rules of the District of Columbia. Now, as is often the case in this particular circumstance, Bar Counsel with the District of Columbia and the Ethics Council in Virginia sat down and worked out a deal, which basically is that as long as that firm never sets foot in Virginia, that Virginia attorney will not be held to be violating the Virginia rules. But in fact, he technically is. So sometimes these things can be worked out, but sometimes they can't. And if you look to rule, and you should always read Rule 8.5, which talks about conflicts of rules and what rules are going to apply. Right now, it is almost futile to try to figure it out because various jurisdictions follow various rules. Anyway, you need to be alert to that anytime you're in multiple jurisdictions. Unwillingness to report unfitness to practice. ABA had a legal ethics opinion a couple of years ago that I think really stated the obvious, which is that we have a mandatory obligation to report misconduct in a fellow attorney if that attorney engages in conduct that calls their trustworthiness into question, even if that activity occurs when they're not practicing law. Now, it's a mandatory reporting jurisdiction in Virginia, so let me ask you this. How many of you have ever reported a colleague or a friend as opposed to an adversary for an ethical violation, for conduct unbecoming? Anybody? This is not unusual. I mean, self-reporting is a real problem for the profession. Even though we give lip service to it and it talks about it, we usually use it more for tactical purposes or when it's clearly somebody that we don't like. So I'm going to urge all of you to think about that, because one of the biggest gaps between creating an ethical culture and the culture we have, a truly ethical culture, is the willingness to report somebody that we like. Why is that hard? Tell me, why does that feel ethically wrong? Anybody have a theory about that? Yeah.
Loyalty to the friend.
Loyalty to the friend, yeah. I mean, you know, in ethics we talk about how there are three personal alarms for ethics. One is the gut test. You know, does it feel, we're going to do something, it feels bad, it feels queasy. That usually means there's something in the back of our head, something we've learned, something we've internalized that says this is wrong. The second is what we call the mom test. You know, can you call up your mother or your father or somebody that is, you know, that you want them to respect you and say, guess what? You know, my best friend who saved my life in Desert Storm, I just reported him to the bar. He's going to lose everything. You know, we don't like doing that. Similarly, we don't, and the other one is the, you know, what we call the local newspaper test. We don't want a headline that says, you know, Lawyer Jones rats out best friend, you know, ensures him to be a penniless bum for the rest of his life. You know, we don't like that. But the fact is, we are the policing of our own profession. Lately, I've been trying to get lawyers to try to confront lawyers with these situations and ask, you know, what would get you to report a. Let me try this one on you. I'll try this one and then I'll move on. You're in a law firm. You have a good friend. He practices law with you. He's a good lawyer, good guy. He's James Fry. His name is James Fry, attorney James Fry, and he's just had a best-selling biography out. It's his memoirs. He's going on Oprah to talk about it. Selling millions of dollars. He's going on to talk about all these things that happen. National television, telling this is his life story. You say, boy, I read your book. It's incredible. All those things you did. And he says, well, I made all that up. Are you kidding me? I sent that out as a novel. No one would buy it. So I said, oh no, this is a true story. And this is great. I'm breaking in millions. I'm on Oprah. fantastic.